The Silent Diplomat. The United Earth vessel Meridian cut through the darkness of space with elegant precision. Its gleaming hull reflected distant stars as it approached the massive structure that housed the Galactic Council. At the center of the ship's command bridge stood Captain Elias, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen, her posture perfect in her crisp Navy uniform bearing Earth's emblem, a blue planet encircled by a silver ring. Approaching Council Station, Captain, announced Navigator Chen, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. They've transmitted docking instructions. Captain Rice nodded once, a slight inclination of her head. She didn't speak. Commander Okafor, her first officer, stepped forward. Acknowledged, Navigator. Proceed as instructed. He glanced at his captain, familiar with her methods. In the 3 years Okafor had served under Reyes, he had heard her speak perhaps 30 words total. Yet somehow her silence carried more authority than the most eloquent speeches. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, each understanding their role in this historic moment. After centuries of dreaming about the stars, humanity had ventured beyond their solar system only 70 years ago. Most species took millennia to reach this milestone. Yet here they were, invited to meet with the Galactic Council, 7 ancient civilizations that govern known space. Message from Earth Command, Captain, called Communications Officer Rivera. Admiral Hassan sends final diplomatic protocols. Captain Rice extended her hand, and Rivera placed a data crystal in her palm. She inserted it into her personal console, her expression unchanging as she reviewed the information. Only Commander Okafor noticed the slight tightening around her eyes. "Something troubling in the message, Captain?" he asked quietly. Rice turned her palm downward. "Their private signal for not now," the ship's AI announced. 5 minutes until docking with Council Station. In the vessel's diplomatic quarters, 6 specialists hurriedly reviewed their preparations. Dr. Amara Singh, head of xenolinguistics, checked translation algorithms. Cultural specialist Thomas Kovac arranged Earth artifacts. Diplomatic advisor Fatima Al-Zoraini rehearsed formal greetings for each council species. "Has anyone briefed the captain on proper ceremonial protocols?" asked Dr. Singh, anxiety evident in her voice. "Commander Okafor says she declined the briefing," Kovac replied, carefully adjusting a preserved cherry blossom branch. "She just took the data and walked away." Al-Zoraini sighed. "Earth's future might depend on this meeting, and our representative barely speaks." "Perhaps that's exactly why she was chosen," said Singh thoughtfully. "In a galaxy where every species communicates differently, silence might be the most universal language." The Meridian docked with a gentle shudder. Through viewing ports, the humans caught glimpses of the Council Station, a marvel of engineering that accommodated 7 radically different species. Crystal spires twisted alongside organic-looking structures. Energy fields contained various atmospheres. Gravity shifted from section to section. Captain Rice stood at the main airlock, Commander Okafor, and the diplomatic team beside her. Dr. Singh whispered last-minute advice. "Remember, the Vox communicate through vibration patterns. The Crystallis are sensitive to sudden movements. The Mist Collective must be addressed as a plural entity. And whatever you do, never." Rice raised her hand slightly. The team fell silent immediately. The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. First through was a Vox representative, a towering being with iridescent scales that rippled in hypnotic patterns. Its serpentine body lacked traditional limbs, yet it manipulated objects with precise control of gravity fields. Behind it floated a member of the Crystallis, a geometric structure of living crystal that refracted light in patterns so complex they made several humans blink rapidly. Its edges chimed softly as it moved. Next came a representative of the Mist Collective, a swirling cloud of luminescent particles contained within a barely visible energy field, constantly reshaping itself. They were followed by 4 equally alien beings, an arbory that resembled a tangle of sentient vines with flower-like sensory organs, a quantum that existed in multiple states simultaneously, appearing to shift and blur, a lithic elder whose stone-like body moved with surprising grace, and finally, a void dancer whose form absorbed light rather than reflecting it, appearing as a mobile shadow with glowing points of reference. Captain Rice studied each visitor carefully, her eyes missing nothing. Commander Okafor delivered Earth's formal greeting, while she observed how the aliens positioned themselves, which ones stayed close, which maintained distance, which seemed to avoid others entirely. The Council welcomes humans to this historic meeting, translated the ship's AI from the complex symphony of sounds, lights, movements, and electromagnetic signals the aliens produced. We have observed your development with interest. The meeting moved to the Council chamber, a vast room designed to accommodate all species comfortably. Environmental fields activated, allowing each representative to exist in their preferred conditions. The lithic elder spoke first, its voice like stones grinding together. For 50,000 cycles, the Council has maintained order among the stars. New species are admitted only after careful evaluation. The arbory added, vibrations traveling through its vine-like appendages. Humans have progressed from planetary to interstellar travel with unprecedented speed. Some believe too quickly. The Vox representative moved forward slightly, scales flashing deep purple. We have studied your wars, your art, your sciences. Impressive in some ways, deeply concerning in others. Captain Rice sat motionless, watching and listening. The diplomatic team glanced nervously at her, waiting for a response to these veiled criticisms. She simply continued observing. The crystallis emitted a complex pattern of light. According to the translator, following Council tradition, we have prepared a test to evaluate your species' readiness. The room grew tense. Dr. Singh leaned forward. We are prepared to demonstrate our scientific achievements, cultural values. The mist collective interrupted, its particles pulsing. No, the test is specific to this meeting. The quantum's shifting form stabilized momentarily. Captain Maya Reyes must negotiate with all 7 Council species simultaneously. You have 1 Earth rotation to reach consensus on the terms of humanity's admission. Shocked silence fell over the human delegation. Commander Okafor glanced at Reyes, whose expression remained calm despite the impossible challenge. There must be some mistake, Dr. Al-Zoraini protested. Negotiations of this complexity typically take months, even years. That is precisely why this is the test, the Vox said, scales now glowing deep blue. Council species communicate and think differently. Finding common ground quickly reveals much about a species' potential. The arbory added, the terms are not simple. Each council member has specific requirements that must be met before we agree to human admission. On the Meridian, Officer Rivera whispered to Navigator Chen, this is impossible. The captain hardly speaks at all, and they want her to negotiate with 7 alien species in 1 day. In the council chamber, all eyes turned to Captain Rice. For a moment, everyone waited for her to protest or at least express concern about the unfair test. Instead, she simply nodded once. The alien seemed surprised by this calm acceptance. The void dancer moved closer, its shadow form rippling. Does the human captain understand the challenge? If you fail, Earth will not be reconsidered for council membership for 50 cycles. Commander Okafor started to respond, but Reyes raised her hand slightly. The commander fell silent immediately. Captain Rice looked at each alien representative in turn, making direct eye contact with those that had eyes, focusing on central particle patterns for those that didn't. Then she gestured toward the data screens where the Council's specific requirements were now displayed. The message was clear. Let's begin. The next hours unfolded in a manner no one had anticipated. Each Council species presented their demands for accepting humanity. The list grew long and complicated, displayed on screens around the room in 7 different formats. The Vox wanted Earth to restrict settlement in certain star systems they considered sacred pathways. The Crystallis required humans to adopt specific communication protocols that seemed impossibly complex. The Mist Collective demanded access to Earth's oceans for reasons they wouldn't fully explain. The other 4 species had equally challenging requirements. The Arbory insisted on strict wildlife protection laws. The Quantum wanted changes to human space-time navigation methods. The Lithic Elders required energy production limits. The Void Dancers demanded genetic samples from every Earth region. Through it all, Captain Rise remained silent. She moved only to accept water from Commander Okafor or to tap her screen to review information. The diplomatic team tried to intervene several times, but Rise always raised her hand slightly, stopping them. The captain must speak eventually. Dr. Singh whispered to Commander Okafor, "We're 4 hours in, and she hasn't said a single word." Okafor watched his captain carefully. "She's doing something. Look at her eyes." Indeed, Reyes's eyes never stopped moving. She watched each alien as they spoke, noting which ones reacted to others' demands. She studied how they positioned themselves when discussing certain topics. She observed patterns in their movements, light signals, and energy fluctuations. 6 hours into the meeting, the council representatives grew restless. "Does the human captain refuse to engage?" asked the Lithic Elder, its stone surface cracking slightly in apparent agitation. Silence is not negotiation. The Vox's scales flashed red. Perhaps humans are not ready for council membership if their chosen representative cannot communicate. Commander Okafor felt he needed to defend his captain. Captain Rise has her own approach. The Void Dancer interrupted, its shadow form pulsing. "We did not ask for the subordinate's opinion. The captain must speak for humanity." Still, Rise remained silent. Instead, she stood and walked slowly around the table, studying the data screens showing each species' demands. She paused occasionally, comparing information between screens. The Crystallis flashed bright patterns that the translator interpreted as frustration. "Half of your allotted time has passed. No progress has been made." Dr. Al-Zarani couldn't stay quiet any longer. "Captain, with respect, we need to respond to their terms." Rice didn't acknowledge her. Instead, she returned to her seat and began typing on her personal console. The large screen at the front of the room activated, showing a star map of council territory. The aliens turned to watch as Rice began marking various points on the map. She highlighted trade routes, disputed regions, resource-rich systems, and cultural landmarks. Then she overlaid the demands of each species onto this map. A pattern emerged. The Vox's sacred pathways crossed resource areas, the Lithic Elders claimed. The ocean access the Mist Collective demanded would impact energy production limits required by the Quantum. Every demand seemed connected to others in ways that created a complex web of conflicts. "Fascinating," said the Arbory, its vine tendrils curling with interest. "The human maps existing conflicts without speaking a word." The Mist Collective's particles swirled rapidly. "This is merely observation, not negotiation. We require solutions, not analysis." But Captain Rice continued her silent work. She added another layer to the map, historical data showing how council territories had shifted over centuries. Then she added economic information, resource distribution, and migration patterns. By hour 10, some of the alien representatives were clearly uncomfortable. The Crystallis' structure dimmed noticeably. The Quantum's form became less stable. The Vox's scales shifted between colors rapidly. "What is she doing?" Dr. Singh asked from her observation post. "At this rate, we'll fail the test," Officer Rivera replied anxiously. Navigator Chen shook his head. "I think she's forcing them to see something they don't want to see." As the 12th hour approached, halfway through their allotted time, Commander Okafor grew truly worried. Captain Rice had not spoken a single word, had not directly addressed any of the Council's demands. Instead, she continued building her complex map of interconnections, contradictions, and historical patterns. The Void Dancer's form crackled with what seemed like impatience. "Does the human captain intend to speak at all during these negotiations?" Captain Rice simply looked up from her work and made direct eye contact with the Void Dancer. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled slightly and returned to her mapping. Hour 14 arrived with tension filling the council chamber. The representatives began arguing among themselves. Captain Rice continued her silent work, occasionally adding new information to her complex map. "The Mist Collective's demands are unreasonable," declared the Vox representative, scales flashing angry red. "You seek access to Earth's oceans, yet you blocked our request for similar access to the water worlds in the Cygnus sector." The Mist Collective's particles swirled faster. That was different. The Cygnus planets contain life forms under our protection, as Earth's oceans contain life forms under human protection, Commander Okafor pointed out quietly. The Void Dancer pulsed sharply. The commander speaks when his captain does not. Humans have strange customs. Dr. Singh leaned toward Captain Reyes. "Sir, they're beginning to fight among themselves. This could be our opportunity to present a compromise." Reyes didn't respond. She simply watched the growing conflict with intense focus. The lithic elder's surface cracked further. The Arbori demand that humans protect wildlife. Yet they harvested living crystal from crystallis planets for generations. That was before the Council Treaty. The Arbori responded, vine tendrils whipping in agitation. "We have provided reparations as agreed." The crystallis flashed patterns so bright that the humans winced. The translator conveyed, "Inadequate reparations. Our crystal forests still have not recovered." The argument escalated quickly. Ancient grievances between council species surfaced one after another. Territorial disputes, resource conflicts, cultural misunderstandings, all hidden beneath a veneer of cooperation until Captain Rice's silent mapping exposed them. As hour 16 approached with no resolution in sight, the humans grew increasingly anxious. Earth's future hung in the balance, yet their captain remained silent, watching the council tear itself apart. The echo of truth. Night shift bridge officers aboard the Meridian monitored the continuing council session with growing concern. Captain Rice had now spent 16 hours in negotiations without speaking a single word. The council representatives had descended into open argument, bringing up centuries-old grievances and unresolved conflicts. "This is a disaster," Lieutenant Park whispered to Medical Officer Dias. "They're fighting among themselves instead of considering Earth's admission." Dias studied the captain's vital signs on her medical pad. Her heart rate hasn't changed since this began. Blood pressure normal. She's completely calm. "How can she be calm?" Park asked incredulously. "Earth's future depends on this meeting, and she's just letting them argue." "Perhaps that's exactly what she wants," Dias replied thoughtfully. In the council chamber, the accusations continued to fly. "The Quantum have manipulated space-time around developing worlds for millennia," charged the lithic elder, its stone form cracking with emotion. "You accelerated the evolution of the Proxima species, then abandoned them when they developed differently than you expected." The Quantum's form fluctuated rapidly. "We were correcting a natural imbalance. The Proxima would have destroyed themselves without our intervention." "As you almost destroyed yourselves," the Void Dancer responded, shadow form expanding. "Your experiments with dimensional phasing nearly collapsed this entire sector." The Mist Collective swirled angrily. "The Void Dancers speak of danger. Your species harvests stellar energy without regard for the impact on neighboring systems. 3 civilizations were driven from their home planets when their suns began to dim." Captain Rice continued her silent work, adding each new revelation to her complex map. The diplomatic team watched in horror as the council splintered further. Dr. Al-Zaraini made one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Captain, please," she whispered urgently. "You must speak now. Offer some compromise before it's too late." For the first time, Rice acknowledged her advisor with a brief glance. Then she returned to her mapping, adding one final layer: direct connections between each species' current demands and the historical grievances they now argued about. The pattern was now complete, and it was damning. As hour 18 approached, The lithic elder suddenly noticed what Reyes had been building. Its stone surface stilled as it studied the complex web of interconnections displayed on the main screen. "What is this?" it asked, voice rumbling like an earthquake. The other council members gradually fell silent, turning to examine Reyes's work. The room grew quiet as each representative processed what they were seeing. "This is," the arbory began, tendrils curling inward, "a complete mapping of our conflicts." The crystallis finished, its structure dimming to a soft glow. The vox moved closer to the display, scales shifting to a deep blue. "Every demand we have made of humanity directly corresponds to a historical grievance against another council member." The mist collective's particles slowed their agitated swirling. "We have been using Earth's admission process to continue our ancient disputes." Commander Okafor stepped forward. "Captain Rice has spent 18 hours mapping the true nature of this test. Your demands aren't about Earth's readiness at all. They're about using humanity as leverage against each other." The council representatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. The Void Dancer's form contracted slightly. The commander presumes to interpret for his captain again. And then, for the first time since the meeting began, Captain Maya Rice spoke. Her voice was clear and measured, carrying easily through the chamber without being raised. "You fear each other more than you fear us." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the environmental systems seemed to quiet in the wake of those 7 words. The council members stared at her, stunned not just by the fact that she had spoken, but by the truth her statement revealed. "For 50,000 cycles," Rice continued, her voice gaining strength, "you 7 species have maintained an uneasy peace. You call yourselves a council, but you have never truly resolved your conflicts. Instead, you've buried them beneath layers of protocol and procedure." She stood and walked to the central display, gesturing to her completed map. "Each of you has demanded that humanity accommodate your interests at the expense of others. Each request is designed to strengthen your position against old rivals. You aren't testing our diplomatic skills. You're using us as pawns in conflicts that predate our civilization." The lithic elder's surface cracked in what might have been embarrassment. "Your assessment is not entirely inaccurate. The question," Rice said, "is not whether humanity is ready to join your council. The question is whether your council is functioning at all." The crystallis dimmed further. "The human speaks truth we have avoided for cycles. Perhaps," the quantum suggested, its form stabilizing. "This is why we invited them. On some level, we recognize the need for an outside perspective." Captain Rice looked at each council member in turn. "Humanity is young compared to your civilizations. We have made countless mistakes. Our history is marked by conflict, prejudice, and short-sightedness. But we have learned that true peace requires more than simply avoiding war. It requires addressing the underlying causes of conflict." She gestured to her map again. "You 7 species have technological capabilities far beyond ours. You have explored the galaxy for millennia, yet you have never resolved the fundamental tensions between you. Instead, you've established rules to manage your disputes without solving them." The council chamber remained silent as her words sank in. The diplomatic team watched in amazement as their captain, known for her silence, delivered the most important speech in human history. "Earth does not seek admission to a dysfunctional council," Rice stated firmly. "We seek partnership with species who are willing to move beyond ancient grievances. If you wish to test humanity's readiness, then test us on our ability to help build something better than what exists now." The Vox's scales shifted to a color humans had never seen before. In 50,000 cycles, no species has dared speak to the council this way. "Perhaps that is precisely the problem," the arbory responded, its vines extending toward Reyes in what seemed like respect. The mist collective's particles formed a more coherent pattern. The human captain observed for 18 hours before speaking, then delivered truth in less than 2 minutes. "This is why humans progress so quickly," the Void Dancer noted, its shadow form expanding slightly. "They see patterns we have become blind to." As the 24th hour approached, The deadline for their test, something unprecedented occurred. The council representatives moved closer together, environmental fields adjusting to allow closer proximity than they had maintained in millennia. Captain Rice, the Lithic elder, said formally, "The council has reached a decision regarding Earth's admission." The tension in the room was palpable as the humans awaited their fate. "Earth is conditionally accepted," the elder continued, "not as a junior member as originally intended, but as a mediating force. You will have equal standing with founding species, with one critical responsibility: to help us resolve the conflicts your captain has so clearly mapped." Commander Okafor couldn't hide his shock. Equal standing. That's appropriate. The Crystallis interrupted, light patterns shifting to a warm glow. "Humans possess something we have forgotten: the ability to see with fresh eyes. Your technology is primitive by our standards," the Quantum added, "but your perspective is invaluable." The Vox moved forward, scales now a calm blue. Captain Rice spoke only 23 words during our entire session, yet those words contained more wisdom than councils that have lasted centuries. Captain Rice nodded once, accepting the council's decision with the same quiet dignity she had shown throughout the test. "Earth accepts this responsibility." As the formal proceedings concluded and the council prepared the necessary documentation, Dr. Singh approached her captain. 23 words, Captain." I counted. "How did you know when to speak?" Rice smiled slightly. "Words have power when used sparingly. I spoke when they were ready to listen." Commander Okafor joined them, shaking his head in amazement. "They came expecting to judge us, and instead, you held up a mirror to them." "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability," Rice replied. "It's our perspective. We're young enough to see patterns older civilizations have accepted as normal." News of Earth's unprecedented admission to the Galactic Council spread quickly across human colonies. Captain Maya Rice became a legend overnight, the silent diplomat whose few words changed the course of galactic history. In the years that followed, human mediators trained in the Reyes method, long periods of observation followed by precisely timed intervention, helped resolve conflicts that had persisted for millennia. Earth ships traveled to disputed territories. Human diplomats sat in on trade negotiations, and slowly, the ancient wounds between council species began to heal. On the one-year anniversary of humanity's admission, the council gathered again. This time, representatives from 30 species attended. Others who had been denied membership over the centuries, now reconsidered under new criteria. Captain Rice, promoted to admiral but still preferring her captain's uniform, stood at the center of the council chamber. Before her was a holographic representation of the galaxy, showing trade routes, cultural exchanges, and joint scientific missions that had been established in just 1 year. "In 50,000 cycles," the Lithic elder said, addressing the assembled representatives, "the council has never changed so much, so quickly." The Vox's scales rippled with a color now recognized as contentment. "We spent millennia building walls between our civilizations. It took 23 human words to begin tearing them down." Admiral Reyes observed the proceedings with her characteristic quiet focus. Commander Okafor, now captain of his own diplomatic vessel, leaned toward her. "They still talk about your speech," he said. "Those 23 words have been translated into every language in known space." Rice smiled slightly. It wasn't the words that mattered. It was the 18 hours of silence that came before them. In the decades that followed, humanity's role in the galaxy evolved far beyond what anyone had imagined. Earth did not become just another member of the galactic community. It became the heart of a new kind of interstellar cooperation. And Captain Maya Rice, who spoke just 23 words in the most important negotiation in human history, became known throughout the stars not for what she said, but for knowing when to say it. Her words were few. Their echo still haunts the galaxy.